After seeing so many of my friends getting laid off this year, and then their whole job title was stripped of them at a blink of an eye, and it really made me realize hey, this could happen to me too. Why am I putting all my eggs in one basket?
Let's just get started. I mean, you're the founder of Design Buddies, which is a community of 60,000 designers, which is incredible. Tell us how you got started.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on. I created Design Buddies because I want some friends to learn design together. Long story short, I changed my career path many, many times. Grew up, wanted to be an anime artist, and then went to school for bioengineering and computer engineering. And after I graduated in 2019, I decided I wanted to get into UX design, but I didn't really know anyone else doing UX design. So I created Design Buddies because I was also scared of reaching out to people, but creating a community helped everyone reach out to me so I can learn from each other. And it's been about 3 years now, and 60,000 members joined and had so much fun. Our goal has shifted to helping designers land jobs by doing events, design challenges, and more. So it's been really fun and really rewarding, especially with a lot of in-person events this year.
Oh my God, so cool. Also, 60,000 is not a casual number. How did you grow it to be, and is it global?
Yeah, it's global. You have members all over the world. We actually did meetups in 6 different cities this year. That was probably the tipping point. I realized this has a lot of potential because we hosted a meetup all the way in Singapore with almost 200 people. So it's really exciting to see it spread throughout Asia, Europe, Africa, and more.
That is, wow, that's phenomenal. And you mentioned you were an engineer. So tell us how you transitioned from engineering to product design.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I never thought I would study engineering, but I was also born and raised in Silicon Valley, where everyone wanted to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, so I was also really influenced by that. Yeah, but I didn't really enjoy school. I was also a class clown, so I loved to make jokes. I loved to draw comics in school, but then in high school, I got into cross-country track because my mother, she started paying me to go to the gym with her, and I discovered I was fast. And I was breaking school records and going to nationals, but that helped inspire me to study bioengineering because I want to learn how to biohack myself to run faster. And that is why I got into bioengineering.
Wait, so first your mom paid you to go to the gym, and then you were like, let me go major and hack my body.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you have to dive into that deeper. I need to hear more. Why was your mom paying you to go to the gym?
Yeah, she wanted some workout buddies. And as a kid, I would describe myself as a couch potato. I loved playing video games and drawing, and I never associated myself with anything gym related. So I wasn't that fast in class, and I started running consistently through going to the gym, watching SpongeBob on the TVs. I love SpongeBob, and they're on the gym TV, so there was where I headed. And then suddenly I became the fastest person in my PE class, joined track in middle school, became the fastest person in my school, and I took it to high school, and I continued to work hard, run fast, and made it to nationals and placed there. So it was really fun, and I wanted to keep running faster, and I wanted to understand the human body and learn how to optimize myself, and that's what inspired me to go into bioengineering.
That's so interesting. I feel like my natural thing would be to go into biology, but you specifically chose bioengineering. Is there a part of technology or growing up in the Bay Area that it really inspired you to do something more in the middle?
Yeah, actually, I really wanted to go into biology, but I remember attending preview day at Santa Clara University where I went to school, and I was also pre-med, and they were showing a bar chart of how many majors make it to med school, and I know bioengineering was significantly more than biology, so that is why I chose bioengineering.
Oh my God, that's perfect. So we love the statistics. And then did you continue bioengineering in college? Because I noticed you did a little bit of computer science as well.
Yeah, I ended up finishing my bachelor's degree in bioengineering. But halfway through, I didn't want to do it anymore, but I also didn't want to pay for another year because I was actually on a full ride scholarship, and it's a lot of money to do another year. And so I knew I didn't want to change my major because I didn't want to pay $50,000 for another year. But I also picked up a minor in computer science and engineering for my bachelor's degree. And I got into engineering because I wanted to make games. I loved playing video games. I wanted to learn how to make my own. So I hung out in the lab, took some CS fundamental classes so I know how to code in Unreal and build games I wanted to play.
And how much time did you spend actually playing games while you're studying and building games? Was there a correlation? Did you find that you were liking your hobby more, liking your hobby less throughout that learning process?
Yeah, I found like playing games was productive because I was getting inspiration of designing and developing my own game and getting understanding the market, getting understanding what's popular, what's not popular. So I was doing some market research also for fun. I was also part of a lot of gaming communities. I was actually most active on this game called Maple Story. I played the PC version a lot growing up. I was max level. I was obsessed with that game, and the mobile version came out, so I was obsessed with that one. So I played that a lot. Also a lot of different mobile games, VR games. So that also inspired me to go into game design too, connecting with the community and getting inspired by the games I enjoyed playing.
It seems like community has played a really large role in your life. Can you share more how we can, when we're part of communities, actually take advantage of that for our careers and it like growing and advancing ourselves personally and professionally?
Yeah, I love online communities. Also like school communities, the clubs I was in as well, because it helped me meet a lot of different people with different backgrounds, different perspectives. And yeah, it just helped me unlock me with more connections, more learnings, and more fun as well. And I love being in online communities because it helps me meet people all over the world. So wherever I travel to, I always have friends to hang out with. And that's like my personal favorite part of running Design Buddies.
You mentioned that you were in the beginning, you were shy and you felt like communities was like kind of a hack to that. How did you outgrow that? Because I feel like leading a community, like you cannot be shy. You literally have to be very outspoken, energetic, and kind of like lead the pack forward. So what was that moment where you feel like you were able to like come out of your shell and be that person?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is finding comfort in the discomfort. I actually was attending Grace Hopper conference in 2018. This is my first ever tech conference. And I noticed people, how they get a job in tech is they really had to put themselves out there and talk to these recruiters, go to these career fairs. And I was like, I got so scared, but I just like made myself uncomfortable. I approached these recruiters to try to get an internship at like tech companies and stuff. And I just continued just like practicing, going to meetups, talking to different people, building up my confidence in myself. And that's kind of how I got over the initial shyness and a lot of like imposter syndrome. Also because I was also a career transitioner. I didn't have 4 years of CS degree compared to many people that that seem to be attending the conference too. I also in 2019, and I also went to Grace Hopper again in 2019. This was something that I would not expect myself to ever do, but I randomly decided to put up a meetup on Facebook events, put it on the Grace Hopper celebration group. And then I think 400 people signed up for that the day before, and 100 people showed up. So that was my first ever meetup I ever organized because I wanted to like warm up and I talked to new people before I approached those recruiters. So it's all about like, for me, like finding enjoyment and discomfort and just kind of learning and growing with it. And yeah, and then nowadays, like I realize networking is fun, or like I say it as like making friends because I'm just like, oh, just meeting new people and see how we vibe. And it's okay if you don't vibe, and I just kind of have fun with it. Don't think too hard.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Networking is like making friends because ultimately friendship is something that is more organic and authentic. And if you are networking inorganically, it sounds cringe and it kind of becomes way too much of a transaction then. And I think it's much harder to actually have good output and a good outcome out of that network and that connection that you've made. So do you have any tips or advice for people who are going to conferences and how they can like leverage the online communities they're part of at the conference and like take advantage of it and continue to professionally grow their network?
Yeah, I feel like just approach it as like making friends. And so before the conference, I would look up conference hashtags to see what posts are people making on like LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram about it, and seeing their profiles and see if I want to reach out and connect with them one-on-one during the conference. It also helps to go with some friends, like whether it's your school, your coworkers, your friends, and just have like a buddy to hang out with. But if you don't have anyone, that's okay. I feel like at conferences, especially like a lot of tech conferences, it's like pretty normal to go up to random people and just introduce yourself and meet each other because you're all here for similar reasons as well. And during the conference, I would just go up to random people and say like, hey, I'm Grace. Like, what do you do? Like, what is your name? Like, what brings you here? What do you hope to get out of it? And just kind of learn more about the other person and seeing if you vibe off each other. And then at all the conferences, there's also lots of like after parties and events. So definitely go to those and meet more people that way. But for me, it depends on your goals. But for me, I usually go to conferences, like number one, to make friends, and number two, I guess my goals before as a student were to score like internships and jobs. But for me right now, my goal is to like deepen current sponsor partner relationships with design buddies and gain more potential ones too. So it just depends on your goal, but I feel like just approaching it with like no expectations, but just making friends, making connections, and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, and it's a great way to increase the surface area of your luck. The more people you connect with, the more people you meet, the more likely that random connection, that random opportunity is going to lead into something really big that can very much advance your career or move your company forward. I really like that you said just go up to a stranger, just go up to a random person. They're probably thinking exactly what you're thinking, which is I'm alone here. What do I do? Who do I talk to? And I mean, I actually think that's the best advice that I've heard because we overcomplicate, we overcomplicate this, and it's actually that simple, which is just go up to someone and make a new friend and see where that goes. And if the conversation is going nowhere, we'll just repeat the cycle, go to someone else.
Yeah, there's so many people out there. You're not going to vibe with everyone, and that is okay. That's totally normal. Nothing wrong with you.
Totally. What about hackathons? Do you treat hackathons similarly?
Yeah, I do. I used to attend a lot of in-person hackathons back in 2019, 2020-ish, before pandemic happened. And I would kind of do the same thing. I usually like to, for me, like when I when I was a participant, I was really competitive. So like I want to work with people that I've known before. So I'll do that. But also I really enjoy just like kind of the camaraderie everyone has and just like hacking away, finishing it, hustling, and having these like deep 3 a.m. talks about life. And so those are really fun. And some of the hackathons I went to, they had different like mentors, partners, sponsors. So if they were working on something I was interested in, even though they weren't on my team, I would just go up to them and make a new friend. So I would just have the same mindset, just making friends wherever I go.
Do you have any tips for someone who's never been to a hackathon before?
Yeah, for me, I feel like hackathon's much more than trying to win a prize. Like there's so many different people with similar interests as you going in, and there's also a lot like workshops you can participate in to improve your skills, and sometimes sponsors will bring recruiters there to hire, so just go for the vibes and don't feel too much pressure to have to win because there's so much more to a hackathon in my experience than winning.
Yeah, go for the vibes. That makes sense. Cool. So you were doing computer science, and what was that moment where you're like, actually I want to pivot to design?
Yeah, I was doing a couple of internships in software engineering. One of the latest one I did was in 2019. Summer 2019, I was an intern at Interned Surgical in Sunnyvale. They make robotic surgery. And my role was a virtual reality robotic surgery game developer. And so I made games to train surgeons to do surgery, which is really cool because I got to apply my bioengineering background, my medical interest, and my technical skills and my game development skills into an internship to impact surgeons and helping them perform surgery better. In that internship, I really enjoyed it. Like I got to do the end-to-end process of making a game all the way from like discovery phase, research, testing, designing the levels, coding out the game, prototyping it, running more tests. And throughout my favorite part of it was actually level design and designing the game and the user experience of the game. So I decided to focus more on that. I feel like growing up in Silicon Valley, people always told me like, oh yeah, you have to be good at coding. But for me, I was so slow at it. And I would sometimes stay up till like 8 p.m. in the office trying to finish my code because it wouldn't work. And I feel like I can't do this for my whole life. So I was like, I think my strengths are in design and like level design. So I decided to go into that after that.
Wow, it's actually really interesting for you to have recognized, oh, maybe this is potentially a weakness and that maybe that I have a higher potential doing something else. Because I think a lot of the times we just kind of round the fact that, oh, we're a failure. Like we're just bad at things. Or people can be very discouraging and have negative self-talk rather than be like, oh, if something's bad is happening, maybe you're not performing as well as you should be in theory. Maybe instead of blaming yourself, put into perspective that there are other things we can explore. There are other strengths we can have. Was it scary for you when you made that decision? Okay, I'm going to pivot now. Like, how did you feel?
Yeah, I was scared because I feel like I already pivoted from bioengineering to computer science, feeling like a beginner again. And then now I was pivoting over from computer science to design. So it was definitely scary, but I feel like I've talked to so many people who changed their career paths many times. Everyone's on their own journey. There's so many skills that I've learned from engineering that cross over to design, so I'm not starting from scratch. And so many things I can apply my engineering background to. And so everyone's kind of on their own journey, and everyone has their own stories, strengths, and weaknesses. So that's actually how I felt like I got over like a lot of the imposter syndrome I used to feel about being a designer.
Yeah, tell us more about that transition. Did you have to leave your job? Was it in between jobs? How did you build your portfolio? Things like that.
Yeah, this was around the end of 2019. I graduated my undergrad in 2019, and then I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at that time. I was playing around with the idea of doing like a PhD in computer science and human-computer interaction, only because both my parents have PhDs, and for my whole life, they're like, Grace, you're going to be Dr. Ling.
That's adorable. Yeah. You're like, no, never mind.
Yeah, I thought of it. And the reason why I didn't actually sign up for a PhD program was at that time, you need to take the GRE, which was like the standardized test, which is like the SAT on steroids, in my opinion. And I cannot, my brain, I studied so hard, but I just like, my brain just doesn't work well with standardized testing. So I took a mock GRE exam. I got the bottom 10 percentile score. I was like, all right, I guess my dream school, Stanford, probably won't accept me for a PhD program with this GRE score. So I was like, all right. So I decided to do a master's in computer science engineering, continuing at Santa Clara, because I didn't need to take a GRE, and that's literally why. And also I didn't feel ready to adult yet. Like, I felt like I didn't really know what I want to do in my career, so I'm just going to like procrastinate in more school so I look like I'm doing something, even though I don't really want to do this.
Yeah. It's funny how the GRE was your number one blocker at that moment, but the GRE is the most unintuitive thing to ask them to do. It says nothing about your ability to actually do a master's in computer science and be successful in your career, yet we get this random test placed on us, and it's like you have to perform, else you cannot go to the next stage of your career, the next stage of your life. It's so silly, and it's funny how because of this being an obstacle, you ended up doing something completely different to avoid it fully, and it seems like that was much better for you anyways.
Yeah, I'm glad I struggled. I'm glad I got a bottom 10 percentile score.
Yeah, that was a sign from the universe.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then now you're doing your master's in computer science. And what point did you realize that you wanted to pursue design? Was this after your master's, during your master's?
It was actually the first quarter of my master's. I considered dropping out, but I had no other job or other option, so I stuck with it. My first quarter, fall 2019 of my master's, I was just kind of attending class because at the back of my mind, I felt like I want to take more classes so I can get better at programming, and maybe I would enjoy software engineering more. But at the same time, I was learning about UX design, a lot of them through like Facebook groups, people I was connected with on LinkedIn, just kind of learning about it. I also attended some meetups and locally with like UX wizards and talking with other UX designers, learning about what I do. It seemed really interesting. So I picked up some projects. How I built up my portfolio was actually I redesigned Discord. I use Discord a lot, and I found some pain points, so I did a redesign project because I saw a lot of people in the portfolio do like redesigns, so I decided to do it on my own and figure it out. And then the other one I did was my game I made. It's called Selfie. It's like a VR game where you can become a cell in VR. I made an undergrad, so I decided to make it a full-on case study, talked about what problems I was solving with it. Other ways, I also did a lot of design challenges. I know Adobe had a lot of creative jams during the pandemic, so I did a lot of that. Got a lot of experience working with other people, so design challenges, hackathons, built on my portfolio that way. I did a lot of volunteer work for nonprofits and also some freelancing, and also some more volunteer work for startups without funding yet. So I got a very different variety of different experiences. And then how I actually got into UX was through creating content on LinkedIn, building up I was like sharing my journey, and I was just a beginner, but I was just like, all right, I'm just going to like talk about UX design, and then a lot of networking too. So I reached out to 400 people on LinkedIn with a senior manager, director, manager title. People were in the position of hiring and just getting a coffee chat with them and seeing where that went. And that's actually how I got my first ever job at Electronic Arts as a UX designer. But yeah, that's how I got in. So this was summer 2020, and then I still continued with my master's. Because I was already halfway through and I didn't want to like quit. So I continued that. I actually graduated last year, but most of it was part-time. I was working full-time. But yeah, that's how I got into UX.
That's crazy because I think a lot of designers struggle with that experience paradox of I can't get my first job unless I have experience. But you're like, no, I'm going to create my own experience for myself, volunteering for startups and nonprofits, like giving myself design challenges, competing in other design challenges to kind of solve that problem and kind of fix that, get out of the cold start problem that people have. And then ultimately, even if you have this really robust portfolio, you're like, wait, no, but like people aren't going to know about me. Like I need to tell people about me. And that's how you end up landing a job. And I hear this time and time again where it's like, yep, I networked or cold reached out to this person. That's how I landed my job. I rarely ever hear I applied to this job on a job board. And then the recruiter reached out to me and then I went to the traditional interview process and they gave me a job. I have never heard that process happening that way. Time and time again, it's proven that it's really important to have a personal brand, and it's really important to build your own experience and not wait around for other people to hand you jobs or like hand you internships, or you're going to be like stuck in this forever. Like, I don't really know how I'm going to get my first experience to get my first job loop. So it's really inspiring to hear that story. Do you have, what's your like number one advice for aspiring designers who are trying to get out of that cold start problem?
Yeah, for me, I got a lot of value out of content creation on LinkedIn because a lot of hiring managers hang out on LinkedIn. So if you're like intimidated by so many different social media out there, I would just focus on LinkedIn and sharing your work. And you don't have to feel like a master of your field to share your work. You can share like what you're learning, what events you're attending, what are your takeaways from that, taking selfies with people you meet at these events, tagging them in it, sharing about what you're working on, ask for feedback on your work. So for me, I found the most success about sharing my journey and sharing my learnings on LinkedIn, and then having people also reach out to me from there. So it's not me like always reaching out to other people, and that's what I do. Also, joining communities. Like, that's actually why I started Design Buddies, is I felt like I didn't really have a network. And for me, I also kind of felt scared just cold reaching out to so many people. So I was like, oh, just have them come to me. But I feel like communities these days, now Design Buddies has grown a lot, and a lot of people who have been with us since the beginning are now like mid, senior level designers in the industry. It's a great way to organically meet people. Like, sometimes LinkedIn, it's like one-to-one relationships, but community, it's like kind of like an organic meeting spot where you can find a lot of people. And in Design Buddies and also a lot of other communities, depending on your profession, a lot of times these professionals are also hanging out there. So it's a great way to like organically meet them and build a relationship with them.
Yeah, and if they're in the industry, especially if they're more senior, maybe they're not directly hiring for a job, but they know who is, and they can connect you. And I always say, if you show up like as someone who is coming to be their friend, they'll also treat you like a friend. What do you do for your friend? You give them favors. You give them referrals. You open them up to opportunities, right? And so it's about approaching that situation with that energy and that vibe versus, oh, I need to like network and I need to make these transactional relationships and like I need to come out of here with a referral. I think that's like a bad mindset to have, but going in with, like you said, as someone who wants to contribute to a community.
Yeah, and kind of going in without any expectations and seeing how you just vibe and just learning about the other person and seeing how we can help each other out long term. Like, I've met like really senior designers when I was a student, and now we still keep in touch. They're like long-term mentors, and sometimes I also help them give referrals to EA or give them like personal branding advice. So there's always ways, like, just because you might be a beginner in your field right now, but it's a long-term investment or long-term relationship you can build with people, and everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses or strengths that they can offer other person as well.
Totally. So once we can solve that problem of getting the right referral, getting our foot in the door, how can we stand out as designers in our portfolio and our resumes?
Yeah, it depends a lot on what the hiring manager is looking for, because I feel like different hiring managers, they look for very different things. Like, some roles, they might be heavier in the prototyping. Some roles that might be hiring more people who are stronger in the visuals. So it depends. But for me, what worked well for me was highlighting my interests on my portfolio. Like, I know a lot of designers, they come out of like boot camps or courses. They're very templated. Like, they follow this like the same process on their portfolio, slapping on a persona and everything. But I would say, like, emphasize what kind of industries you're interested in your portfolio, why you're interested in that, and having some evidence to back that up. And also for me, talking about my different interests. Like, I love to draw, love to create content, and I also included my illustrations and my content in my portfolio, and it helped me stand out in the process too. And also just being overall curious, asking lots of questions at any time, like during the interview, when you're networking, just expressing like curiosity and interest about what the other person does, and it has helped me learn so much as well.
What are some questions you asked when you were interviewing?
Yeah, I actually haven't interviewed for a while, but some questions that I would ask now is, where do you see this company in 5 or 10 years? Or what is some of the biggest problems that your company and your products you're addressing, and how are you solving them? And what has worked and what hasn't? And so I like to ask questions about like where the company's headed, so I can see if like I would be curious in working in that problem space.
Yeah, and I think specifically as a designer, you work really closely with the product managers and with like leadership and like a lot of marketing, right? You're very much of a collaborative stakeholder in that process. So really understanding company vision, company strategy, and what are the goals of like your team members is actually really important for you to be a great designer and contribute to the team's goals. And so showcasing in the interview that you can ask those questions is actually really important. So that makes sense. Do you have any like tips or advice for people who are trying to build their personal brands as a designer and standing out in that? I think every day we see like hundreds of new content creators join the platform, and so it's starting to feel more and more harder to actually make content that's valuable and useful in this like very saturated market now.
Yeah, for me, I've actually been creating content since 2014. I was like back in high school, and I guess like kind of reflecting back on my journey a bit and what worked and what didn't work for me as a content creator was I started creating content on Tumblr in 2014 because I kept getting bad grades in school and my writing skills, like, because my writing skills sucked. So I wanted to practice my writing skills, but I didn't want to like write into the void and not get feedback. So I started writing on Tumblr about running, about lifestyle, student life. And then that suddenly got like 8,000 followers in a year. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. I was getting like brand deals as like a high school kid. And it was really fun. And then Tumblr kind of died, went to Instagram. And then I stopped doing social media for a while because I was too stressed out about getting good grades in college, and then picked up LinkedIn again in 2020. And I feel like there's so much noise out there. There's so many people telling you you should have a niche. You need to stick with the niche, consistent posting schedule. You need to have this many hashtags. And I would say just have fun with it. Like, don't be afraid to break rules. And like, yeah, these are like good tips to know, like how you can like have a posting schedule to grow and how you should have a niche. But at the end of the day, I feel like just like try to like remove those constraints from yourself and just experimenting on your own, seeing how that goes. For LinkedIn, I don't really have a niche, but it also helped me grow a lot on LinkedIn and like not also like meet a lot of connections on LinkedIn too. So I try to just like express my personality and seeing what I have to offer instead of following anyone else's step along the way too.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Well, you basically run a company, you're a content creator, and you have a full-time job. Tell us how you balance these two things in your life.
Yeah, I just kind of have fun with it all. I feel like growing up, especially when I was a student and when I was first starting in my career, I felt like my major and then my career was my whole identity. Like I felt like everything I had to do had to align to like getting good grades or getting promoted, climbing the corporate ladder. And then this year, 2023, I realized like, oh, I don't have to live that way. Like I don't have to climb the corporate ladder if I don't want to. And I feel like this kind of discovery happened because I just felt like there's much more to life than your job. And I feel like a job, like, yeah, it is, for me, it is important to enjoy it, but it's also like, I don't see that as a limitation to do anything else. Like, I love doing design buddies. I love creating content. I love traveling. I love running. I love hanging out with my friends. I love exploring. So I don't see things as like sacrifices. I just like find ways to do everything I like, and it keeps me interested and keeps me happy. And it also helps that I have really great work-life balance. I mostly work remote, so logistically that just works out well.
I've almost never heard someone say I have work-life balance. These days I feel like everyone I talk to is like, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm this. And of all the people I've talked to, I think you've done the most out of everyone else who doesn't have work-life balance. Like, what's your secret?
Yeah, I've also burnt out, and I went through one of the biggest burnout in my life. I would say throughout it lasted a long time. I would say it lasted like 2021, 2022. And a lot of my burnout came from being too concerned about disappointing others. For example, I remember at this point in 2020, I was doing like probably like 10, 20 coffee chats a week, or sometimes 10 a day. Because a lot of people were reaching out to me for career advice and I just wanted to help out. But I found myself like repeating the same thing over and over again. And I was kind of getting like mentally really drained from that. I wanted to help out still. So that's how I got more into content creation, so I can help out at scale. But like identifying what drains my energy and finding ways to still contribute, but also not have it drain my energy, like content creation, scaling myself, that also helped me. And also there was some like, I learned so much through management and design buddies. Like, I feel like I made so many mistakes that led to my burnout. Basically what happened was a lot of people on our team, they got on the team because they wanted to, well, they asked me, they like reached out and they wanted to be on the team. So I was like, oh yeah, sure, you seem like a nice person, you're active here. Sure, you gave you a moderator role. And a lot of it was they had a different vision of design buddies than I was at. And for me, I really value understanding both sides of the story before making a judgment or before making a decision, and making sure I'm making a decision to benefit majority of people, like as much people as I can. But like a lot of the leadership of my team didn't have the same vision. And for a while, for like over a year or so, I feel like I wasn't growing in design buddies that much because I felt like really stuck in the leadership team and the way of thoughts. And I burnt out a lot. And after that, I decided to do a reorg.
A reorg seems necessary, yes.
Yeah. Thankfully, then I feel like the catalyst of it all was they tried to cancel me when I was on vacation, but I'm actually really glad that happened because it was like the catalyst that helped the new team come in. But basically what happened was because of all the disagreements and everything, and it was like really, really mentally draining on me. That was another source of my burnout. And after identifying that and kind of taking like some next steps to make sure that I'm learning my lessons, making sure I strategically pick people on our team, and also surrounding myself with mentors and people in my life that went through something similar, learning from their experiences as well, it helped me realize that that their way of thinking is like not productive to the long-term vision of design buddies to benefit the most people. And so because of thankfully those mentors I had in my life, I was able to like identify that, hey, these are not the right people I want on my team, and then take next steps to do the reorg, and then picking people on our team that I feel would have something to contribute, and I can also help give them value in their lives as well. And growing from there as well. So like actually a year ago, I almost wanted to quit Design Buddies because of that, because I felt like I failed as a leader, because what happened was those people on my team, and I felt like they were also, they also had some disagreements with me, but instead of bringing it up to me, they would talk amongst themselves and then bring it to me when it becomes a big problem. And I felt like I failed as a leader because I was the one who brought them together in the first place, and yet they were trying to come up with a plan to like take me down and stuff. And so it was really hurtful, actually, and I thought of quitting, but thankfully had a mentor. Her name is Xiao Xiao. She was my former manager at EA. I talked to her a lot about this, and she basically changed my whole worldview about like what was happening. She's like, oh, they're trying to throw a coup on you. And I was like, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's your thing. It's your community. It's your company. Like, that doesn't make sense why you would leave.
Yeah. Yeah, they were trying to do something like that. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll do a reorg. And then after the reorg happened, everything went uphill. And
it's funny how important it is to actually vet someone before bringing them on your team. And I actually learned this the hard way too, very early days of Gen Shi, where I was really excited about people being excited about what we were building, and also really excited that people wanted to contribute to that, not realizing, how does this person contribute to the team? How do we work together? How do they work with other people? Because that is actually ultimately going to be the success of us in the future, right? And I took that very lightly, similarly to you. Unfortunately, fortunately for you, like it got a lot worse, and you actually had to really take that stand. For me, I kind of saw it more in like micro moments, but I learned like very early on that the people you bring on your team is actually the difference between like what happens with your company or not. And the other thing about burnout, right, is sometimes you can be doing way less, but if it doesn't feel right, if something feels wrong, if it feels against your values or against your passions, it feels 10 times more tiring than it needs to be. But you could be doing 10 times more, but if it's aligned with your passions and your values, it feels like work-life balance. It doesn't feel like it's draining your energy. So it's often really important that the route to work-life balance, it feels like, isn't even balancing your life, but it's following your passions and, like you said, having fun with it, which is so important.
Yeah, not feeling you have to be limited by like the main thing you do, and just living life without constraints is what helped me out. And I feel like I'm so glad I went through all of that lessons I've learned, because it helped me, I feel like, become a better leader. I'm still growing. I'm still learning every day, but I'm so grateful that happened, because that's how our new team came to be. And after they saw the message of them trying to like I would say like cancel me, they reached out to help out. And actually after they left, the whole server became more active because they were like really strict moderators. And for me, like I like having fun. I like when other people have fun. And they were kind of ruining the fun by yelling at people, making them feel bad for posting on their own channels. So after they left, it actually worked in a favor of like design buddies and my own mental health and my team as well. So I'm really, really grateful for my team at Design Buddies, also my team at EA for supporting Design Buddies. And that's actually how I'm able to achieve a lot of like work-life balance because of the people I have in my life.
A lot of people are afraid of starting a side hustle because of what their employer is going to say about them. I actually had a very similar experience where my employer was also very encouraging and supportive of Genshi when I was doing on the side when I had my full-time job. What advice do you recommend for people who want to start that side hustle, but they're afraid of what their employer might think? How do we have those conversations with them?
Legally, I have them sign a conflict of interest form saying that I have ownership of Design Buddies. So yes, make sure you get that covered.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. That's good advice.
Yeah, and don't work on your side hustle stuff on your company computer, keeping it separate. And I would just say just do it. For me, I guess it really, really depends on your situation. I feel like I'm really grateful to be at EA where my manager and everyone on my team supports Design Buddies. And I also understand that it's not the case for everyone. But for me, I just kind of just did it. And also for Design Buddies, it's a resource to help designers. And so we also want to help design. I guess like I feel a lot of designers also want to help designers too. So it like aligns with their personal mission and just being really proud of it and seeing what happens. I actually personally never had a negative experience with people at EA from Design Buddies. So I don't have much to share about it. But if that would happen to me, I would just try to understand like where that negative comment is coming from and trying to understand where that person is coming from. And like maybe it's something like I didn't foresee or just try to understand them and seeing where the conflicts arise.
Makes sense. Do you think it's important for everyone to do things on the side outside of their job?
I think so, for me personally. And this comes after seeing so many of my friends getting laid off this year who previously saw their identity in their employer. And then it just like their whole like job title was stripped from them at a blink of an eye. And I just felt really bad because I saw people like working for these companies for like 15 years or so. And it really made me realize like, hey, this could happen to me too. Why am I putting all my eggs in one basket? I feel like there's more to life. And a lot of my life realizations now happen after seeing all these layoffs.
Yeah. So let's talk about money for a second. Mm-hmm. You said you put your eggs in multiple baskets. What baskets are you putting it in? And how are you, managing your time across these different things? And can you share a little bit more about like where you get your income from? I'm sure it's not just your full-time job.
Yeah, my full-time job is a lot of it. It also Design Buddies. We do a lot of sponsorships. A lot of companies pay us to do events, design challenges, media sponsorships. I'm also a content creator, so I get paid to post like reels, the LinkedIn content, and paid to speak at events. I do like public speaking, consulting, and I also do some investing in index funds. And I would say that's the bulk of it. Where all my income comes from.
Do you feel like you're comfortable where if any one of those things was stripped away from you, you'd be totally set to go with the other things happening in your life?
Yeah, I will, because I put my eggs in multiple baskets just in case I get laid off.
Yeah. It's so crazy because oftentimes when you invest in multiple things, you increase the value of your brand. You're actually ironically less likely to get laid off, less likely to get fired because you as a person, you are expanding your network, you're expanding your skill set, you're expanding your value. And it's kind of counterintuitive where the more that you put your energy into professionally and personally growing yourself, the less likely it is for you to end up in a bad situation like that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like also I highly encourage side hustles because it helped me gain so many other skills as I'm a UX design job, especially my soft skills, my communication skills, presentation skills, social media skills as well. So now if I ever get laid off or don't decide not to do UX design anymore, I could pick up a community manager, social media, marketing role, product role. So I feel like I expanded my skill set very widely from doing side hustles.
Yeah. Would you ever go back to computer science?
If I right now, probably not. But like if I ever, there's something I want to build and somehow like this new development framework I really want to do, I will. But like right now, no. But I'm also always keeping my doors open.
Always open. What about for Design Buddies? Would you ever do that full time?
Maybe. I guess the only thing holding me back is I really like my income from EA and the benefits and the healthcare. I would say the thing that would make me do full-time Design Buddies is if Design Buddies made like 2 or 3 times my income from EA for like consistently for like over a year. Just because I also have expensive hobbies. I like to travel a lot. I've been going to 20 countries a year.
That's
yeah.
crazy. Oh my God. Favorite country?
This year I guess like top few. I feel all of them are really different. I've been in Singapore for 2 weeks because my family's from there. My dad's from there. My mom's from Taiwan. I was there like digital nomading / half business trip / staying at my grandparents' house, and it was really fun. I've also
so cool.
Thank you. I also did a 5-week Europe trip across 11 different countries. I went to Santorini. It was my favorite place. It's like a Greek island. It's like white and blue and nice mountains, like my whole aesthetic, and I loved it. A bunch of places in Europe are great too, but I'm also really excited to go to Antarctica next year and Greenland and Iceland. So I love traveling.
Do you solo travel or do you go with friends?
I go with my family and friends.
Would you ever solo travel?
I don't think so because I feel like it's not as... I feel like I would describe myself like as an extrovert, and I feel like I wouldn't have as much fun not having anyone to share the joys with, and also no one to help me take photos. So
selfie camera.
Yeah, I do have a selfie camera.
Have you ever traveled with members in the Design Buddies community?
Yeah, I have. I went to Adobe
cool.
Max with a couple of them a few weeks ago, and yeah, I did a lot of conferences with them too. A lot of my lifelong friends that I hang out with regularly these days are actually from Design Buddies now.
Do you think that if you were to genuinely focus on making 2 to 3 times your income with Design Buddies, that it's realistic or it's possible? Like, what do you think is like the difference between that? Is it the fact that you don't have enough time? The community needs more time to grow. You're not even sure if you want to do it full time. Like, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still figuring out every day. I would say in the past 3 months, I have made like triple the income from my full-time job. So if I keep up that trajectory, maybe. But I feel like it's like, because we monetize through sponsorships, it's very dependent on the situation.
Inconsistent.
And actually all of our sponsorship deals are inbound. So I never actually reached out to any sponsors because I can't keep up with all of our sponsorships coming in anyway. So that's why I never outbound reach out to anyone. But if I were to do this full time, I'll do a lot more outbound and maybe it could make much more money from that too.
Makes a lot of sense. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self some advice, what would you tell her?
Yeah, just try new things. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to fail. Like, I feel like failing, you always learn something new. And also, my younger self, I was so stressed out about school and getting good grades. I mean, it did make sense because my goal was to do a PhD and do a master's, and your grades matter for that. So if your goal is that, like, focus on your grades. But for me, what I would tell my younger self now is live life more. Like, don't spend 10 hours a day studying in a library. Go hang out with your friends, go to clubs, meet people, diversify your interests. And don't put all your eggs in one basket. And if you have an interest, side hobby, just do it. Don't listen to anyone who tells you should only focus on your career, because there's much more to life than that, and much more to life to be enjoyed than your job.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm feeling all your energy right now. Like, I want to have more fun with my life, and I feel like just by having more fun, I'll probably be more successful. And we're going to do this question again, but specifically for aspiring designers earlier in their career. What advice do you have for them? Any common misconceptions that they should watch out for as they're beginning that journey?
Yeah, when I was starting out in design, I thought I had to memorize or like know every single like design thinking principle or every like heuristic analysis, like every like technical thing out there before I could do design. But for me, the real practice came from actually doing design, like actually doing the work and learning all these principles and how they relate. Design is a skill that I personally got better at by just actually doing the work. So don't stress out about memorizing every single fundamental. Just do it and learn fundamentals and see how they apply to your work to really improve in that. And also share your work. Be proud. Get feedback. Share your work online, on LinkedIn. It's okay if it's like your first one. It's always a journey, and people are not that mean out there in my experience. So all designers are really friendly. They're open to giving feedback and helping out. So just putting yourself out there and learning from people too.
Do you recommend any other platforms besides LinkedIn?
Yeah, I would say like I also found some success with like Instagram and Twitter, and Design Buddies too. There's also some other Discord servers that I'm in. Like I know Iterate UX is also a UX design community. Design Buddies is UX design, but we also do a lot of like graphic design, visual design, illustration. So yeah, like I would recommend participating in communities like on Discord as well as LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. But if I would just like focus on one, I would just say LinkedIn because there's so many out there already. And a lot of the people in positions of hiring are hang out on LinkedIn.
Yeah, especially if the goal is to land a job.
Yeah, this all depends on your goals. If your goal is like meet other artists, I would say Instagram, or meet other friends, I would say Discord. So yeah, it depends on your goals. But if you're to get a job, probably LinkedIn. But if you're just out there for the vibes, all of them are great. Discord's great too.
And if someone wanted to join Design Buddies, how would they join?
Yeah, I can just go to designbuddies.community website or just discord.gg/design buddies. If you just search Design Buddies, you should be pretty like first on Google. We have good SEO.
Yes. And if I want to land a job through Design Buddies, how do you guys help?
Yeah, we have like a channel called Paid Opportunities where a lot of hiring managers will post jobs. We also have another channel called For Hire where you can put yourself up for a job too. We're also working with a lot of like recruiting agencies these days to connect with more hiring managers. So more to come on that. But yeah, right now it's mostly on Discord, but we also have lots of stuff coming in our roadmap.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the pod. I feel so inspired for me right now. Like I'm like, okay, I need to stop being so aggressive about my day and be more flexible, open, have more energy, have more fun, have more passion. So thank you for instilling that. And I know all the listeners, especially aspiring designer or not, can learn so much from you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was fun.